Welcome to the Hong Kong Trail Walkers podcast. Today we've got our second episode of what we call the Race Talk, where my co-host Martijn Doekes, I got his name right for a change.
For a change, yeah, very good. Yeah,
and I will discuss the upcoming race this weekend, which is going to be the Lantau Two Peaks race, October 4th, 2015 at 7:30 a.m. in Tung Chung, Lantau. Is that right, Martin?
That's perfectly right. Yeah.
Okay, so the thing about this particular race, right? It's part of first of all, it's part of the Hong Kong Trail Racing League.
Yeah,
and it's
not just the Trail Racing League, but also the Ultra Racing League. So it's one of the few times that Ultra and Trail races will be in the same race.
Okay, just so the listeners who don't know what the difference is, could you tell us what is the difference between the Hong Kong Trail Racing League and the Ultra League?
Yeah, the Trail Racing League is for those people who just like to go out for like 1 or 2 hours, maybe 3, maximum 4. Short race, maybe. I think this one is 21k or 23k. That's probably the longest race in the series. But for the ultra race, you actually have to do at least 100k and at least another more than 40k to qualify. So the races in Hong Kong are subdivided, and certain races are part of the Trail League and certain races are part of the Ultra League.
This is only a 23-kilometer race, so why is this part of the Ultra League?
I think it's really, really hard. And most people will take longer than 3.5 hours to finish. So I think that it justifies being part of both races. Some people can do it really fast and quick, and some people struggle a little bit more. But both ultra races and trail races can do it, so it's part of both.
And it's also part of the Sky World Cup. So tell us about that, but what is the Sky World Cup?
Yeah, that's quite unique. I think it's the first time in Hong Kong that a race part of the Sky World Cup can take place here, although I believe MSIG Sai Kung early in the year was also part of it. But the Sky World Cup was set up to encourage this type of racing, which is racing on really steep, difficult terrain, all around the world, and give runners who like to race there the opportunity to do that. So Lantau Two Peaks, I think I wasn't in the qualifying committee, but I think the reason it's part of it is that it's steep enough to
exactly,
qualify.
yeah. That was going to be my follow-up question for you, because according to Wikipedia, it says that sky running is an extreme sport of mountain running above 2,000 meters, whereas obviously in Hong Kong we don't have anything above 900 and something meters, which is Lantau Peak. However, this still qualifies to be a part of it because it's steep enough.
Exactly, it's steep enough. And as a defense, I think we can say, well, our humidity is also very tough to deal with, so why not make it part of it?
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about the course a little bit, yeah? So, okay, so this year I think we only have the 23-kilometer version with 2,000 meters of elevation gain.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. For every 10k, you have to run up 1,000 meter.
Okay, so tell us about the course, right? You start off in Tung Chung, and then what happens?
You start up next to the MTR on like a square. You kind of start in a village, and it's a little bit European style, because in Europe, a lot of the races, they start in a little village, Italian or French village, run up the mountain and come back down. And that's, I think, one of the reasons this race is also a little bit more like a sky race than other races. It starts and ends in this village you know well, Tung Chung.
Exactly, so Tung Chung you start off, and then you go to Wong Lung Hang Road, and then you go up those very, very steep stairs, up Wong Lung Hang, all the way to Sunset. Well, you don't go to the top of Sunset Peak, but you go around Sunset Peak, which is at 807 meters.
Yeah, so first you get a pretty crazy run because it's relatively flat to the start of this trail. And I think a lot of people, at least in the past, for instance myself, we ran too fast and then started going up those steps too fast, and we easily blew up on Wong Lung Hang Trail. I think you know Wong Lung Hang Trail pretty well, but it's one of the steepest trails in Hong Kong.
Oh, definitely. It's also one where there are many, what do you call them, wasps. I got bitten a couple of times, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience.
Yeah, let's hope that they're not around tomorrow. Have you checked it recently? Have you been up there?
I have, as a matter of fact. I think I was up there 2-3 weeks back, and I did see a snake, but I did not see any wasp, as consolation.
Okay, well, I think the snakes will be very quickly hiding when they realize there's about 1,500 people running up the mountain. So I don't think that's an issue. Wasps would be an issue.
Definitely. So from there, after you reach near the top of Sunset Peak, you go down to Pak Kong Au.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. So pretty steep descent, big steps, and you end up in Pak Kong Au. Yeah.
Which is our checkpoint number 1.
Yeah, it's at the road, so you have to cross the road, and on the other side will be the checkpoint.
And then there is a change, right? There you do another 2 kilometers this year, whereas in the previous years you didn't. Can you tell us about the change? So what happens at Pak Kong Au?
Yeah, exactly. So in the past you would drop down to Pak Kong Au from sunset, and then you would just go up the steps towards Lantau. So basically straight into the climb. Now you have to take a left turn and go down the South Lantau country trail. It puts in a bit more elevation. And I think that trail is also a little bit more technical. So, yeah, it's kind of a nice change in a way.
And after the little deviation on the South Lantau trail, you rejoin the Lantau trail.
Yeah, exactly. You will cross another trail that comes from Lantau trail in a way, and you take a right, and you go back up
all the way
Lantau,
up to the top of Lantau Peak, Phung Wong Shan, as it's called in Cantonese, to 934 meters above sea level, which happens to be, I think, either the top or the second highest peak hill we have in Hong Kong.
It's the second highest.
Second highest. First is Tai Mo Shan.
Tai Mo Shan is higher, but this is an actual accessible peak, and it might feel higher because it's a bit skinnier than Tai Mo Shan, isn't it?
Yeah. So and then you got that very steep descent down to Non Peng, which is our checkpoint 2.
Yeah.
What do you think about the descent?
The descent is, if you feel good, it's a nice descent in a sense of you can bomb it and other people have to go slower. If you don't feel good, you have to go slow. I've slipped there once or twice, and if you fall on those rocks with your back, it's not very nice. But in general, it's what this sort of course should have. It's really steep. It's really hard to deal with, and good mountain runners should come off it really, really quickly.
I think it's been sunny the past couple of days, so there's not going to be much moss on those big rubble. So I think it's going to be a nice run down to Non Peng.
It should be, yeah, it definitely should be.
All right, so once you reach Non Peng, you've got your checkpoint 2, and then you've got the Lei Lek Shan contour trail. Right, tell us about that Lei Lek Shan contour trail. What is that like?
Yeah, that's a flattish trail. I mean, it's never really flat, but it's more or less flat. And it offers you a nice view over Tung Chung and the valley between Lantau Peak and Tung Chung, and it gets you to the Donkey Trail. Exactly,
my favorite, the Donkey Trail, which again on a wet day would be a super hard trail to go down. But since it's been dry and sunny the past couple of days, I think it should be a fantastic run down, and also it's still quite dangerous. And I remember tripping a couple of times, and it wasn't the best of experience. What would you say?
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, if it's slippery, it's definitely not one of the nicest trails to go down. And there's some wooden stairs in the middle, and it's going to be quite a challenge to get a good rhythm there for people, especially if you don't really know what to expect. So it's going to be a nice challenge, but it's not the most difficult of trails. It's a lot of paved.
Right, and then you eventually reach Tung Chung again, and then you go back where you started to that little square thing by the MTR station.
Yeah, exactly.
So a word of caution there, as I read on the website, right? I mean, especially on a Sunday, there tend to be many children playing around in that little square. So as you're running down towards your finish, you might want to make sure that your eyes are open and you don't bump into any kid.
Exactly, especially if you're sprinting for the win like last year. Last year the difference between number 1 and 2 was only 1 second, which is very crazy if you think about it. It's like you're running 23k and then it ends up being a sprint finish. It's quite amazing. But obviously in that sort of situation your only goal will be the finish, and you might overlook that there are other people. But in general, I think most people are just happy that they made it, and they will just jog to the finish and happy that it's over.
Exactly. So let's talk about what we have at the checkpoints. We're at checkpoint 1, which is Pak Kong Au, and checkpoint 2, Non Peng. So they've got water they've got water, of course, Gatorade, bananas, biscuits, and oranges.
Yeah, it's pretty standard checkpoint stuff that you get here in Hong Kong. Bit of sweetness, bit of hardiness, and it's just something that keeps you going.
So all the tailwind guys, you got to bring your own tailwind. You bring your own UCAN.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bring your own gels, etc. Yeah.
And you also got to bring water to the start as well.
Yeah. There won't be water readily available at the start, although there's 7-Elevens and etc. very nearby. But obviously you will need to have a good strategy of how much water you will bring, because you don't want to carry too much, because it's really steep and high, and it just costs a lot of energy to carry water up a mountain. But at the same time, if it's hot and it takes you a while, you'll need enough water to survive. So it's going to be like a little bit of a juggle. How much would you carry, you think?
Well, I've done it once. I think I did 3 hours and something like 15-20 minutes or whatever I did back in the day. Yeah.
Pretty crazy fast, yeah.
I was trying to beat Dominic, but he beat me at the end. But
I'm not surprised.
So what did I carry? So in the beginning, I went too fast, contrary to the advice you just gave out. I carried about 1.5 liters, which was, I think, too much.
Sounds like quite a lot for...
Yeah.
You have 2 checkpoints, so it would probably take you an hour to get to the first checkpoint?
It took me, if I remember right, to Pak Kung Au, it took me 1 hour and 20 minutes or something of that sort.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It took me a while. But technically you can go without water, right? An hour, and you can drink a lot, and then maybe just carry something like half a liter with you.
It won't feel comfortable, but you could do without water.
Depending on how fast you're going to go, and
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so my strategy when I did it wasn't the best, because I carried too much water, and I went too fast in the beginning. However, would you say the right strategy should be carry 1 liter of water, or what would you say? How much would you carry?
Well, I think our audience might be people who can do it in 3 hours, and our audience might be people who can do it in 5 hours, and it's going to be different for those two people. So it's just on your experience. If you know it's going to take you maybe 1.5 hours, then you probably want to bring about 1 liter. If you know it's going to take you just 1 hour, to get to the first checkpoint, obviously, then you might want to carry a bit less, because in 1 hour you're not going to drink a whole liter. And
since it's going to be a fast race, you want to carry one of those water bottles which is easily refillable, right? Instead of monkeying around with hydro packs.
Exactly, yeah. So I think a handheld bottle, if you're comfortable with it, is going to be easier and faster than something on your back that you have to take off and refill and then put back on your back and sit. But at the same time, if it's climbing hard and you need your hands and your feet, then you might not want to have something in your hands.
And what would you do about nutrition? So once you've taken 1 liter, assuming you've reached Pak Kung Au in 1 hour and 15 minutes, right? Yeah. What would you eat at the checkpoint? Given they've got bananas, biscuits, oranges, and Gatorade. What would you have?
As you know, I'm a UCAN fan, so I wouldn't touch all the sugary stuff. But I would probably load up on UCAN before I start, and then I would have enough energy to survive about 2 hours, and then I would bring 1 or 2 gels to make it to the finish. Otherwise, if I'm used to taking sugar, I probably would fill up 1 bottle with Gatorade and 1 bottle with water, or some sort of combination of those two. So maybe take a banana.
Right, you'd do that, and then you'd go up Lantau Peak.
Again, it's going to be very different for whatever pace you have. Someone who wants to finish in 3 hours or less doesn't have time to grab anything, maybe 1 banana, and that's it.
Yeah, someone who's doing it in like 3 hours, right, would probably want to load up with nutrition to begin with, and then probably have Gatorade or carry
some gels
one of those sachets of Tailwind or something.
Tailwind, yeah.
And then just run straight through.
Yeah, or those favorites. I think we're talking about favorites now. Those guys probably have a support, and I think there was a strict warning from the organizer. I think in the past on Exinasia events, most their events not very strict on support. You could have support everywhere, but for this specific race, you can only have support at the checkpoint. So it's very important to notice that you don't just take support somewhere else and you might be disqualified.
Right. Once you're done, you reach Lantau Peak, you run down to Nonping, you go to the checkpoint, and then you run down all the way to the finish as fast as you can. It's going to be one heck of a descent after you reach...
It's a lot of pounding. I've only done it once, and that was in the same direction. So what happens is I thought I need to run as fast as I can to Wanglinghang Trail because it's narrow and it's going to be back... I'm going to be stuffed somewhere. And then on Wanglinghang Trail, I thought I need to get up here as soon as I can. I was pushing and shoving, and I passed Hannes, you know him well, and he said, "You're going too fast, look at your heart rate, you're going too fast." And I kind of didn't believe him, but it was true. So yeah, I blew up, and if you blow up, then it's a long race. It's going to be a long walk.
Right. So just quickly summarize what we've spoken about so far, right? So the important points to note: A, it's a slightly different route in the sense once you reach Pa Kung Ao, you don't go straight up those stairs forever. You go on the South Lantau Trail, so keep that in mind, And secondly, don't blow up at the very beginning. It's going to be a very fast race, at least for the first kilometer and a half. Everyone's going to be running. I'm assuming I'm talking to the trail runners who want to do it in 2.5 hours or so, right? You want to make sure you're pacing properly. Yeah, especially you want to reserve that energy.
I think the guys who do it in 2.5 hours, they can go as fast as they want, because they're going to win it, and if they can actually manage to do that. But the guys who want to do it in 3 hours or 3.5 hours or 4 hours, they definitely have to pace very carefully early on. Yeah.
On that subject, well, let's talk about the last year's top 10. Right. Yeah. So what do we have there?
We had David Sempat winning from Malaysia, but only 1 second from Steve Kill. So I couldn't really find David back on the list, so I don't think he's there, but Steve Kill is back. So he might win it, you would think.
Wow.
But then if you realize all the international guys coming in, that might be a little bit difficult. So we don't really know those international guys in the sense of we don't know how they compare to the local guys. So let's just talk about the results as if there's no international guys.
Oh, sure,
and then Steve Kill has a good chance to win the overall from the local perspective.
Right. So let's just see the names that we have registered, right? On the males, right? So we got Clement Dumont.
Yeah, he's a former winner.
He's here. So he did.
Twice, I think.
Yeah. So he did. He's got a couple of records. He's got 2011. Clement did it in 2 hours and 31 minutes. And then he did it in sub 2.5 hours. 2013. He did 2 hours and 28 minutes.
Very fast. Clement loves this type of profile. He likes the really steep stuff, and he does always very well. Except for last year, something went wrong. I don't know exactly what, but I know he was in the race last year. He was maybe even in the lead, and then something went wrong. So, but normally, if he's up to his best, he's one of his strongest.
He could be. It could be. Let's see what are the names. We've got Brendan Lee, our Kiwi friend.
Yeah.
Let's see how he does. Yeah. Good luck, Brendan.
I always think Brendan's going to do really, really well, and then he does well, and we'll see what he does this time.
And then we got John Ellis, who just did the UTMB and the UTMF, and
a few other races in between.
And a few other races in between. And I'm not surprised to see his name on the list of guys doing this one too.
Yeah, you're more surprised to see him not on the list. So I don't know if he's actually going to do it. But he's on the list, and last year he did very well, and I'm sure he's going to do very well as in most of his races. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
And then we got Matt Murrows.
Yeah, I think Matt is quite hyped up about this because he got some friends from overseas that he's preparing for OTW. So we're going to have a really good international OTW team this year. And they are running this race, or one or two of them is running this race. So I think Matt will be there, and Matt will probably do well.
And not to forget my teammate. Yeah, I thought he was a Russian guy. My phone book says Michael Russian guy, but turns out he's Austrian, right?
Austrian,
so Michael, yeah. I can't say his last name properly. Michael Skobiereski.
Okay, yeah.
Emsko. Let's call him Emsko. Yeah?
Emsko is the
so Emsko. Oh, I mean, he's a guy to look out for. He did very well in one of the recent races. Which one was that?
Lantau Vertical.
Yeah.
He did pretty well in Lantau Vertical, although not as good as last year. So I'm hoping he's well prepared. Yeah. He's also my teammate, by the way. Right. In your case, it's OTW. In my case, it's on the trail racing team. So I'm hoping he's doing really well. He lives in the area almost these days, so hoping he's well prepared.
And then we come to my new teammate this time, right? Our new OTW member, Jeremy Ritchie himself.
Yes, Jeremy Ritchie. Yeah. I hope he's in form. I don't know what happened on the Lantau vertical.
I mean, he's got back from Canada, Hong Kong humidity.
Exactly.
Getting
So
used to life here.
For Lantau 2 peaks, let's hope he's past that adjustment, and he's back to his form. Because I think, as far as I haven't looked back all the records, but it looks like he's got the fastest time, at least of recent memory, on the course. So if he can repeat that, then it will be very
exciting,
impressive.
Yeah. Hey, and not to forget what I call this guy the Italian Ducati. I can't get the name right, but it's either Giuseppe or Giuseppe Mollica. He what was the story? He did 3 hours? What was that? On the green power, he did something ridiculous.
In the green power, he was sub 5, and he won it.
He won it. He did like 2:59.
He did 2:59:59
on the Hong
Kong Standard Chartered Marathon, which was quite impressive. And he's been training a long time. He's been focusing on the road, but he can't leave the trail completely alone. So last year he was top 10, and I think if he does come back this year, then I'm sure he will do fine.
Right, yeah. Good luck, Giuseppe. I want him to do well too. And then we got two other names. I'm not too familiar with these guys, but Santosh Tamang. What do you know about him?
Yeah, he was the revelation last year of the season. He did very, very well in a lot of the long races. He got second in Trans Lantau. So I don't know what he's done recently and whether he's already race ready for this year. But if he is, then he'll do very well. Just like last year, he was top 10 last year. So.
And what about Dan Falconer? What do you know about him?
Yeah, Dan is a triathlete, and I think he's pretty keen on the steep stuff as well. So last year he was 10th, and he's on the list this year. So if he's back, I'm sure he's going to do well again.
Wow! And what about on the female side? So we got Zane Williams, yeah.
Yeah, Zane on her own Lantau always does very well, and she's always a force to reckon with. I don't know, again, because it's the start of the season, it's always difficult to say. Some people have taken a big break, some people have trained really hard to continue, so we'll see how she feels and how she does. I think she won the Lantau Vertical, didn't she?
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I think she did. So that must mean she's in pretty decent form, and we'll see what she can do against the internationals.
Well, we also got Marie, who I suspect will do extremely well. She's been the queen of the hills from last year.
Last year she was really, really good. I'm just not sure how she got out of UTMF, because she dropped out of UTMF, and I thought she was a little bit injured before it, so I think
she was sick before that, yeah.
Oh, she was sick maybe, okay. So yeah, I'm not sure how she has survived UTMF. Normally she would be definitely one of the favorites, yeah. And
then we got Jeremy's wife, Valerie Lagarde. Is that how you say the last name? I hope it is.
That's
the right way to say it, yeah?
Yeah, Valerie did really, really well on the Lantau Vertical, and it will be interesting to see how she can hold up on a little bit longer, but similar steep stuff. Yeah.
And then we got Nadia and Li Dong. Nadia Kusha and Li Dong.
I don't think Li Dong is running, because I didn't see her. She dropped out of UTMF, and I didn't see her on the list. Like, Asia Trail has a good article about the international runners that are coming, and if you want to read all about the international runners and who are the favorites, and both on the male and the female side, you should go to their website and read it. But normally I would expect her to be mentioned there, and she wasn't, so that's why I assume she's not running. Yeah,
I read that article too. It spoke about how 7 of the top 20 women in the Sky category would be participating. One is an American called Stevie Kramer. I don't know if
Stevie Kramer, yeah. I've run with her.
Really?
Well, somewhere far behind, because she was in the MSIG Lantau 50, which I ran as well. But obviously she finished far, far ahead of me. But she's very impressive. I've heard a few things on the podcast about her, and she just loves this mountain stuff, so she'll definitely be one of the favorites. Yeah.
And just a quick note on the records we have, right? Well, first of all, on the female side, we got Claire Price, who did 2:53 and 2:55 in the years 2011 and 2012, and then Marie, 2014 3:09 is what she did.
Yeah,
which is quite impressive. And then on the male side, we've got William Davies, 2 hours 30 minutes 2009. And Stone is not participating this time around, is he?
As far I couldn't find him on the list, so I assume he's not. And he's also, I think he always likes to take a bit of a break after UTMB, which he ran, and make sure he recovers first before he starts running again.
And so there are two sub 2.5 hours. Yeah, one is Clermont, 2013, 2 hours 28 minutes, and the other one is Jeremy, 2 hours 25 minutes in 2012.
Yeah, and I suspect
impressive.
Jeremy's run would have been in the other direction. So I don't know.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know what the difference is in time-wise, if it's supposed to make a difference in time. But
Also, not to forget, we have the extra 2 kilometers this time around, so,
yeah.
Might
So
make
when
a
you
difference.
reach Pakungao, yeah, definitely the times will not be the same. Although with the international runners coming, there's probably someone who's going to be faster, to be honest. Because these guys are just very used to this steep stuff, and they're running really fast up hills.
Right.
And not to say that Jeremy and Clement don't. They're also very, very fast, but these guys might just be in an extra league.
Are these guys professionals, or do they do this as part of their, is it their hobby? Like, because our guys are not professional runners. Jeremy is not he's a teacher. But I wonder if these guys are actual runners.
I think most of them are similar to Jeremy, as in, like, Jeremy is on the international Solomon team, but what it comes down to is you get sometimes your travel paid for certain races, and you get some gear and things like that, but it's not like you can have a full-time living of it. So I think that's the case for most of these guys. I know, for instance, Stevie Kramer, that we just talked about, she's a teacher as well. Must be something about teachers and running, isn't it?
Yeah, look at Stephen Carr.
Yeah.
He's a runner and a teacher.
There are many teachers and runners.
Huh.
Shane,
yeah.
used to be a teacher.
Used to be a teacher, exactly.
So, maybe to be a successful runner, you have to be a teacher first.
Someone should do some statistical analysis on that.
Exactly.
All right, so let's summarize our tips for, not the tips, but the most important points. So number 1, make sure you don't run too fast at the start.
Yeah.
Number 2, remember that the route is very slightly different. There is another little bit of a 2K monkeying around after you reach Pakungao. Don't forget that.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And what's number 3? What's your big number 3?
Save some energy for the last about 6K. If you can run that fast, you will pass a lot of people.
And obviously, be careful when you run down Donkey Trail and those steep steps. And it's not, you want to make sure that it's not even in all places. You definitely want to keep your eyes really wide open, and you don't want to fall.
Don't do a Vince, as I always call it.
Right. So before we conclude, any last words?
Well, I'm going to run the race myself. You're not going to run it, right?
I'm not running it. Are you running it?
It's your backyard.
Oh, I didn't see your name on the
You
list.
didn't see my name. It was there.
It was there. Oh, wow, I missed it. Maybe I typed in Martin without the J. It's your fault.
Actually, I'm running under my baptized name, Martinez.
Oh.
That's why you couldn't find me. Anyway, so I'll be there running, and but I'll take it. I just want to beat my own record, which is a really crappy record, which was 4.5 hours.
Wow, hey, good luck to you. I'll be watching.
Yeah. But it would be nice to beat your record, which was what?
3 hours, something like that. 3 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's not unbeatable, I think.
You
By
can
me,
do
it's hard. Anyway, yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, well, there's 1,500 people on the list. I think it's probably realistically going to be 1,200 people running, so it's quite a lot of people.
Wow, I'm surprised how the AFC didn't regulate it to 550 people, or the way they've been doing all the other races.
Yeah, actually I'm not sure how that works, but I can imagine, because this is a sky running world champion thing, that there's some special permission. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's going to be interesting now how it will go.
So good luck to everyone participating. Good luck to you, and I'll be watching. I'll make sure that you follow your own tips.
Could you be on checkpoint 1 for me and give me some UCAN?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Name
thanks.
it, you got it. Whatever you want. I'll definitely see you there. I'll be on the course. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And before we conclude, we want to say thanks to Lantau Base Camp.
Yeah.
For what, Martin? You tell us.
Lantau Base Camp for initiating this idea about discussing the races, for everybody to be up to date on the races, and
exactly,
for their support.
Exactly, and we need to have a rap song for Lantau Base Camp as well. So when we finish our episodes, we finish with a nice rap song.
Yeah,
right?
I leave all of that to you.
Well, thanks very much for listening. This is the Hong Kong Trail Walkers podcast. I'm not sure what episode, but we'll put that in the show notes. And thank you for tuning into this episode of the Hong Kong Trail Walkers podcast. if you've got any comments or questions, please write to vince@techotech.com. That's vince@techotech.com. You can also leave feedback or reviews or comments on the iTunes page or on the show notes of this particular episode. You can find that in hikeinhongkong.com. That's HIKEINHONGKONG.com. Until next Friday, have a good week. Thank you.